Francis Ford Coppola, the epic dreamer of American cinema. Francis Ford Coppola reshaped Hollywood with ambition that matched his art. From the family saga of The Godfather to the operatic madness of Apocalypse Now, his films fuse intimacy with grandeur, personal vision with cultural myth. Coppola dreamed of building an artist's studio in the heart of American cinema and paid the price for chasing visions larger than life. In this episode of Filmmaking Giants, we trace his journey through triumphs, disasters, and enduring influence. The story of a filmmaker who dared to imagine movies as both personal confession and national epic. Produced by Selenius Media, music by The Artificial Laboratory. The sound of an old tape recorder clicks on, a reel turning slowly, and a young man's voice begins to dictate a dream of cinema. He imagines films made not for studios, but for artists. Films that could be intimate and epic at once. Films that would give America its own mythology on screen. The voice is that of Francis Ford Coppola, and the date is the late 1960s. In a few years, his dream will collide with history in the form of The Godfather, a movie that will not only define his career, but transform Hollywood itself. Coppola's story is not one of steady triumph, but of soaring highs and crushing lows. Of visions too grand to fit within budgets or boardrooms. Yet from that turbulence came some of the most powerful images cinema has ever produced. Coppola was born in 1939 in Detroit, the son of Italian-American parents. His father, Carmine, was a flutist and arranger who would later write film scores for his son's movies. The family soon moved to New York, where Francis grew up in a lively musical household. He was a sickly child, stricken with polio, bedridden for months at a time. It was during those long confinements that he discovered storytelling as a way to pass the hours. Puppets, plays, and eventually a home movie camera became his companions. He was shy, awkward, but he dreamed of spectacle. Later, he said he always felt like an outsider, and that sense of marginality would fuel his empathy for outsiders of every stripe in his films. He studied theater at Hofstra University on Long Island, staging ambitious productions that combined his love of music, drama, and technology. He was restless, never satisfied with simply repeating what others had done. The leap to film came when he attended UCLA's film school, part of the first generation of Americans to see cinema as an academic discipline. There he met other young rebels, George Lucas, John Milius, and later Martin Scorsese, who would together form the backbone of the new Hollywood. They were cinephiles as much as filmmakers, nourished on European art films and eager to challenge the formula-bound studios of the 1950s. Coppola cut his teeth in the low-budget world of Roger Corman, a legendary producer who gave many young directors their start. He directed Dementia 13, a gothic thriller shot in Ireland on a shoestring budget, learning how to make something out of nothing. But Coppola always thought bigger. His breakthrough came with The Rain People in 1969, a road movie about a pregnant woman searching for her identity. It revealed his gift for blending intimate character study with broader social themes. Still, it was not a commercial success. Coppola seemed destined to be one of many talented but struggling independents, until Paramount Pictures handed him the reins to a gangster picture based on a best-selling novel by Mario Puzo. The Godfather was supposed to be pulp, a mid-budget genre film. Paramount wanted it modern, cheap, and quick. Coppola wanted something else, an epic about family, loyalty, and America itself, steeped in the dark elegance of the old world. He fought for Marlon Brando when the studio resisted, insisting that only Brando could give Don Vito Corleone mythic gravity. He cast Al Pacino, then unknown, as Michael, the reluctant son who becomes a ruthless patriarch. The shoot was plagued by conflict. Coppola threatened with firing more than once. Yet he held on, driven by conviction. The result, released in 1972, was a revelation. The Godfather redefined what a Hollywood movie could be. An art film that was also a blockbuster, a meditation on power disguised as entertainment. Its lighting, influenced by cinematographer Gordon Willis's chiaroscuro, made darkness itself a character. Its music, composed by Nino Rota, gave it operatic sweep. Its story was Shakespearean in scale. It won the Oscar for Best Picture and made Coppola a household name. 2 years later, he did it again, with The Godfather Part 2. Rather than repeat himself, Coppola deepened the saga, interweaving Michael's cold consolidation of power with the immigrant tale of young Vito, played by Robert De Niro. The film expands backward and forward in time, making the Corleone story into a national allegory. It was darker, more complex, less comforting. Critics hailed it as the rare sequel greater than the original. Coppola had turned pulp into myth, family melodrama into tragedy. He had made the gangster film into a mirror for America's soul. But Coppola was never content to repeat successes. In the same year as Part 2, he released The Conversation, a small, haunting film about a surveillance expert whose obsession with a recording unravels his sanity, made in the shadow of Watergate. It captured the paranoia of an age when privacy seemed to vanish. Gene Hackman's weary, lonely protagonist stands as one of Coppola's most subtle creations. The film showed that Coppola could do intimacy as well as spectacle, and it won the Palme d'Or at Cannes. Then came the dream that nearly destroyed him, Apocalypse Now. Coppola set out to adapt Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness into a Vietnam War epic. He wanted nothing less than to capture the madness of war itself, to make the screen vibrate with the fever of a national trauma. The production, shot in the Philippines, became legendary for its chaos. Typhoons destroying sets, Martin Sheen's near-fatal heart attack, Marlon Brando arriving overweight and unprepared, budgets spiraling, schedules collapsing. Coppola himself nearly lost his mind, his fortune, and his career. "My film is not about Vietnam," he told journalists. "It is Vietnam. We had too much money, too much equipment, and little by little, we went insane." Out of that insanity came one of cinema's greatest works. Released in 1979, Apocalypse Now is hypnotic, terrifying, surreal. Helicopters attack to the strains of Wagner, villages burn, rivers lead to the kingdom of Kurtz. It is both a war film and an anti-war poem, a nightmare that refuses to resolve. It cemented Coppola's reputation as a director who risked everything for vision. The 1980s were harder. Coppola invested heavily in his studio, American Zoetrope, hoping to create a haven for artists. Projects like One from the Heart, a neon-lit musical experiment, collapsed financially. He became entangled in debts, forced to direct for hire at times. Yet even in misfires, his ambition was visible. In 1983, he directed adaptations of S.E. Hinton's novels, The Outsiders and Rumblefish, casting a generation of young actors who would soon be stars. These films, visually bold and emotionally raw, have grown in stature over time. Later came Peggy Sue Got Married, Gardens of Stone, and The Cotton Club, each reflecting his eclectic interests. He returned to the Corleones in The Godfather Part 3 in 1990, a flawed but fascinating coda that tried to find redemption in the story of Michael. Critics were divided, but Coppola himself always regarded it as unfinished business. Recently re-edited as The Godfather Coda, The Death of Michael Corleone. Coppola's career is a story of extremes. Few filmmakers have reached such heights or endured such falls. Yet, through it all, his influence remains immense. He proved that American films could be art without losing audiences, that blockbusters could be operatic, that personal vision could survive the machinery of Hollywood, at least for a time. His battles with studios, his dreams of independence, inspired younger directors to fight for their own voices. His images, Brando in shadow, Pacino closing a door, Sheen rising from the river, helicopters silhouetted against fire, are burned into cinema's collective memory. In later years, Coppola turned to smaller, self-financed projects, experimenting with digital technology, still chasing the dream of freedom he had in his youth. He invested in vineyards, became a winemaker, a patriarch in his own right. His children, Sophia and Roman, carried on his artistic legacy in film. He never stopped imagining new possibilities, even when the industry moved on. His story is not just about movies, but about ambition, art, and the cost of dreaming too big. Coppola once said, "Anything you build on a large scale or with intense passion invites chaos." His films prove that out of chaos can come beauty that lasts. Francis Ford Coppola remains an epic dreamer of American cinema, a man whose triumphs and failures alike testify to the risks of vision. To speak of him is to speak of cinema at its boldest, where art and life blur, where the pursuit of truth can consume fortune, health, and peace of mind, but leave behind works that future generations will still watch in awe. Produced by Selenius Media. Music by The Artificial Laboratory.